So speaking of random things, as I was telling Laura a little bit earlier, I'm putting my Dungeon Master hat on. So for those of you who know me or get to know me real soon, tabletop gamer here. So we're going to run through some scenarios as if we're running this is something that organizations do in a different way, though they don't talk about D&D specifically. Welcome to the Information Week podcast. I'm Jean-Pierre Ruth for Information Week Senior Editor. And in this episode, we are looking at development, delivery, and deployment. And in this episode, I'm doing a one-on-one conversation with Laura Sellers, who is the Chief Product and Technology Officer for Anaconda. Laura, thank you so much for making yourself available and being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Right. Okay. So looking at development, delivery, and deployment, trying to look at two sides of the coin. You have obviously the technical side and then the business and operations side, two different needs that will have an intersection of needing to come together, particularly when there's something that either side feels they need to have happen, wants to have happen, what is prudent for the organization as a whole. For organizations, how well does your software delivery cycles mesh with the logistics and other operations in your organization? How do you deal with the different rhythms of like customer and other demands and logistics and the pace of the software development and deployment? And who needs to be part of the conversation to get everything in tune? So, Laura, let's just kind of let's first take a look at some of those questions or some of those thoughts that you might have, and then we'll get to some example potential scenarios that we can kind of play out to see how you might react to those kinds of situations.
Yeah, let me take a step back, if you don't mind, and just introduce myself a little as to what my background is. I've been in the software space for my entire career, pretty much for so well over 25 years, and I've been working with product and engineering teams for the majority of that career, as well as been at multiple different companies and have seen product and development delivery cycles evolve over the years, as well as come through many problems, challenges, and achievements throughout all of that. Currently working at Anaconda, it is also another unique company compared to some of my previous, as it's the only unified platform for open source that combines trusted distribution, plus simplified workflows, plus real-time insights and governance layers. So it's all about making practitioners' lives happier, but we're also focused on the organization as a whole and making sure we can actually reduce risk, save time, save money, et cetera. So the challenges that are unique to Anaconda are definitely in the world of we do everything from local software deployment for our practitioners, but we also have enterprise, cloud-based deployments, on-prem deployments, et cetera. So you're dealing with all different ways you're actually releasing the software. Throughout my career, I've been in everything from a desktop application business to a full SaaS offering to mobile deployments, as well as production level deployments. And I think what gets really, that's very much the same across all of those different ways you release software and think about your product roadmap inside the organization. And what you often see from startups maturing and really trying to get the organization behind what you're doing is what's often happening is you're lacking alignment. You started at this small software company with really brilliant engineers who are building really cool stuff, but go-to-market doesn't actually know what they're building or when it's actually going to be delivered, which creates a lot of challenges because then feature requests start coming in left, right, center from everywhere to be able to try to interject with what we should be doing from a roadmap perspective. So if we kind of take it back at the macro level, the biggest thing that I've been able to do throughout my career in every organization I've been in is really set that alignment at the top and give the visibility into the entire organization. Here's what we're building, why we're building it. Here's our commitment to delivery because we did proper planning to be able to tell you this is what we're focused on for the next quarter. So as random things come in the door, you're often able to much easily say to them, we can do that for you, but that means we're not going to be able to do X, Y, or Z where they maybe actually had a deal or revenue riding on it. But there's so many similarities to every startup I've worked at as you mature the processes and the operations, and it really starts with alignment across the entire organization of what product and image is committing to deliver for the company.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the further insight in your background and your perspective on things. So speaking of random things, as I was telling Laura a little bit earlier, I'm putting my Dungeon Master hat on. So for those of you who know me or get to know me real soon, yeah, tabletop gamer here. So we're going to run through some scenarios as if, we're running this is something that organizations do in a different way, though they don't talk about D&D specifically. So, all right, so Laura, we're going to take this from the perspective that, you're in a comparable role, but like at a fictional organization. This is not specifically how you might do this at Anaconda, but all right. So you're in your organization and you have an executive who is in the client services space, and your business customers. They say that their business customers need to comply with new governance rules from the EU, and the platform needs to be updated. But the way this policy is coming down, this has to be done in very short order. I mean, very short order compared to the normal processes. What do you do to try and convey to them, and also to try to convey to these business customers about what's going to go on with the delivery of that new platform, to try and get your arms around it, but then also they have their anxiousness about we need to make sure that we're not going to get in trouble with EU or whatever policy makers are suddenly bringing the boom down and saying it might be data privacy, it might be what new layers of governance, whatever that is, but all of a sudden it's for them it's panic and go time. How do you approach that?
Everything's panic and go time when it comes to people asking out of product management side of the world. But on the regulations front, I think I would first find the frustration with my own internal teams of how did we get surprised by the regulations? Typically with regulations, they're coming, you have more time to properly plan for them, et cetera, as you look towards that future. As I would think about something like this, that we were caught by surprise. We had no idea, or maybe we had entered a space and didn't realize we were entering a space that was going to get hit by these regulations. I think it's always important to take the step back and talk to the customer as to what the rollout is going to look like for them. And I think the best thing that you can do in those scenarios is make sure everyone's aligned on what that timeline actually needs to be. Often when you're hearing from clients or customer success or whatever it is a matter of life or death at that moment. But if you kind of take a few steps back and say, this is going to jeopardize X, Y, and Z feature. Is this really more important to you now, or could we give it a week, or can we give it a month, whatever it may be? But being able to have those trade-off decisions with the customer as to this is what we're not going to be able to do if you think this is what we need to do instead, or how about can we agree if we were to deliver by this date that's going to actually meet the needs of what it is you're looking for, or is there a possible workaround that we can still do something as we work to deliver it? I mean, everything comes into scope, time. There's only so many things you can control. So if you are under a time, you don't know what you can actually squeeze into that scope anyway. So maybe there's a manual way we can make sure they're still focusing and meeting those regulations. But a lot of it just has to come right back to customer obsession and truly working together on understanding the timelines, the trade-offs, et cetera.
So with that, are there particular stakeholders within a client organization that, should be kind of part of the conversation, part of the, what you're trying to convey that need to be really, hey, this needs to be communicated to, these are the types of folks that need to hear this, or these are the ones that need to be part of the conversation, and how to kind of get that connection going? Yeah.
And I think that's also a fascinating question. And I say that because, where I'm sitting right now in Anaconda, and it's not just unique to Anaconda, but of course you have users and you have buyers. Mm. We have practitioners here, and then we have admins and DevOps people and folks that are utilizing it very differently and governing it versus where your practitioners are. So to get specific without getting specific as to what the regulation is, I think the biggest thing you want to be able to do is truly understand how this could be impacting the users of the software, the administrators of the software, and where the buyers' heads are at. Are they going to churn if we don't get this done? That I don't think you can really ignore any individual group in this hypothetical situation, that you need to understand all the stakeholders, I guess, and where they sit and how it's going to impact their workload, their workflows, and their buying behavior.
Gotcha. Great. All right. On to the next scenario. Okay. This time you have an executive in marketing who's heard a rumor on TikTok via TikTok that there is allegedly a platform that's going to deliver so fast that it has other people chattering about it being a potential big game changer. The marketer now is coming to you and saying like, hey, we need to pull something together for the sake of competition to show that, again, fictional organization, your organization is, still in the running. While this rival platform sounds like it, in theory, is going to deliver something fast with actionable results, it's still untested in a lot of ways. And the source behind it is relatively new to the scene. So how do you strike a balance, when you're trying to communicate to the folks who come to you internally to talk about, what they're wanting, but how you strike the balance of they're asking for something fast, but you want to, hopefully look at something like, hey, we want to work on something reliable. Rather than just kind of get it out the door for the sake of showing that, we're out there too. Yeah.
Is it wrong to say this reminds me of my kids wanting to buy the latest TikTok as to what it is they find? Mm-hmm. I think as we kind of also look at the failure of many startups, or what I worked with many founders on, is shiny object syndrome. Mm-hmm. And so there is a lot of whiplash that can happen inside an organization that actually holds you back from delivering, because it's the latest shiny thing over here. Stop everything, go look at that. And it takes you away from the broader product strategy again. So not to continue to kind of go back to that macro level, but to be completely reactive to something you're seeing on TikTok is not the right way to think about it. You still have to go back to, okay, how does this fit the broader strategy? And if we've already committed to the fact that we believe delivering feature set X, Y, and Z is going to drive, another several million in revenue, do we think by doing something that this TikTok thing is really going to impact us in a different way, we should consider it. But it's all about continuing to stay the course and, again, understanding the trade-offs. I think when we think about the random things that are coming in, and this is, everybody I'm sure is saying the same thing, it is overwhelming to keep up with how fast technology is moving right now. And it's really overwhelming to also understand what you need to ignore versus what you need to do something about. So I think as you think about structuring your organization, having a true R&D arm who is not, supporting production level code and supporting kind of the broader roadmap, we need those folks experimenting and understanding and kind of staying up and on top of the pace at which technology is changing. But again, I feel like my job at one of the companies I was at a few back, the founders actually gave me a T-shirt that just said no, because I had been telling them no to everything. It was, I stopped all feature development, and it was like production was falling down, and it was a matter of just focus on your technical deck, get things going, and stop with the extremities of the most shiniest thing out there right now. So it's a hard discipline to get after. And in the pace of technology right now, I'm not saying we should ignore everything, but you need some people who have more capacity to kind of focus on what's real, what's not real, and be doing some POCs in the background that's not impacting your customer obsession deliverables, if you will.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Next scenario. This time it's a CFO who's coming to you in a panic. And they saw yet another story that's out there about a deep fake quantum-powered goblins that spoofed a video call, broke into another company's decryption. They stole databases, financial information, and then they locked up the system with ransomware. And now they're threatening to sell information on the dark web. So now your CFO, they're panicked by this. They want you to essentially change all the locks on the platform to the point of locking down things to such a degree that you're questioning whether or not the platform will be able to fill its intended purpose, because they want everything locked down so tightly. How do what's the conversation like to talk about? They're assuming that the system is already vulnerable and being targeted. What's the conversation like in terms of hey, yes, something to speak to, but also trying to maintain functionality?
Can I tell the CFO to stay in his lane and just get me my headcount plans? No,
that is a valid response. The CFO has a low charisma. You have a higher wisdom stat. You are able to tell them that, and they can go back to their company.
Can you trust me that I'm doing my job, Mr. CFO?
Sure.
But in that case, I think there is like validity to also having, again, with product and engineering, I'll go back to it's driving the alignment and the understanding across the organization to build that confidence. So in something like a security breach and somebody's super panicked, outside of telling him to stay in his lane, somewhat tongue in cheek, there is a need to also boost your own internal security teams to be able to make sure they're giving the awareness. So maybe that leads to, can you just provide an audit, my CISO or my head of security as to everything that we do from a security perspective and where our risks are. In prod and eng, you are typically doing penetration testing and have third parties looking at things across the board. So there should be a way to really level up and show where we're at from a security perspective, really do a SWOT analysis, if you will, even on that one. Well, my biggest thing will be telling the CFO to take a deep breath. The next point would be, let's just work with the team and make sure you have the visibility as to where we see real risk that we need to do something about versus what is pretty locked down. But, my least favorite thing to do is have everyone else in the organization solutioning for us versus just bringing us a solid problem. And that problem, from the way I can unpack it with the CFO, is he's concerned we're not secure enough. And it's for my job to go show him that we are secure enough, or that we are taking certain avenues to make sure we can lock down where appropriate.
Gotcha. Okay, great. All right. Coming up on the last scenario for you. All right. This time you've got a branding leader who thinks that software, it's great, it's functional, but they're thinking that it needs a new identity in terms of customer-facing identity to kind of better engage, the prime customers that the organization is after. And they've got an idea that where they want to overhaul the platform for certain aesthetics and user experience interests, but you do have a next major rollout, and that would delay that based on what they're at least asking for, at least what they've kind of put on the table. And because they want it to feel just right from their perspective. Meanwhile, you're also aware that it's a competitive space. Others are out there, trying to, further their platforms. And there's definitely, a major rival that's also planning to have, a comparable, rollout, with major updates and with functionality. And you have a good sense that they might not be as focused on this idea of, polishing and putting on all the shine that the branding leader would want. So, but you're aware of that kind of like tension. So how do you approach that?
So I want to start off by saying there is nothing I am more passionate about than user experience and user interface, really. And I understand the emotion that brings to users if the product is pretty. Like, I am fully 100% aligned with a pretty product, but most importantly, a usable product drives much more revenue, much more adoption, all of those things. Could not agree more. As a marketing leader comes to you and says, okay, we need to go change this. Maybe they just did a brand refresh and we need to get on board with it. I hate to be a broken record, but again, it goes back to that alignment and planning. And it's really looking at it from, okay, what are all the business cases we already have built out that we are focused on for this year? And where does this one fit, and what impact will it have? And will it have more of an impact than the 3 other things we're working on? And so when I think about those business cases, it's everything from, your market requirements document to your business requirements document to really what is the impact we're going to be able to have inside the market for our sales teams, et cetera. And so it's a matter of weighing where that kind of fits in the broader scope of things. I would love nothing more than to make sure we have a beautiful, usable product as a first and foremost thing. But if it's a major overhaul, you've got to fit it into the broader plan and make sure you're understanding those trade-off decisions. Yet again, if we've committed to sales, this new feature set is going to go drive revenue by 10%. And we have no commitment but hypotheticalness coming out of what a rebrand is going to do for the interface. it's hard to put that above the other one. But I go back to this is, again, being in many startups, seeing people not thinking about, the multi-year strategy and where some big heavy lifts like this fit into the broader picture with everything else you want to be able to go do. So, I hate to keep saying it, but proper planning and alignment with the entire organization makes it really easy to stop the reactive nature that's going to come from everywhere else. I've said for years, the joy of product management is you get to work with everybody inside the organization, and you really get to be that hub of the wheel, if you will, to collaborate with everybody. The pain points of product management is often everyone's a product manager.
Gotcha. It definitely sounds like the adage of, don't panic, to kind of steal a phrase from out there, that in terms of like, the sky may be falling, some intergalactic force might want to like turn this part of space into a highway, and they need to destroy Earth, per Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But hey, don't panic, grab your towel, and everyone settle down and form a proper plan first.
Well, yeah, and I think what else people often forget about, especially in a very engineering-driven culture that I have seen, is delivering stuff takes the whole company. You can't just put stuff out there and build it and they will come. You need those cross-functional alignment of how are you going to sell it? How are you going to market it? Where is it going to be on the website? How are we going to enable people to be able to do something with it? And so I think there's a lot in my history that I've seen of failed launches, failed adoption, because it's been a lot of like, let's go build something cool. And then nobody actually uses it because the rest of the company wasn't aligned around marching in the same direction to go sell it, adopt it, et cetera. So the alignment of the whole organization is what makes product delivery successful.
A follow-up question, does it help to, this might be something that you do, to have the kind of like regular intervals to have that kind of like further that alignment, like, hey, whatever it might be, every month, every 6 months, every year, to just kind of like bring folks together and essentially to break bread and to kind of like have it, like, hey, you person on the operations or business side or the finance side, let's over here and have a little sit down and chat. Is that something that's conducive?
Yeah, so we are actually in the middle of, I just joined here 4 months ago, but we are kicking off our 2026 strategic planning now, and we're bringing everybody together in person, our leadership together in person in July to align on like, what are the big bets we have going into 2026 and what does that look like? As we look at that's kind of like the kickoff for as we continue to kind of continuously plan and continuous to drive alignment. That's a really, really good way to do it. Something else that I've implemented in every organization I've been in is something called program increment planning, which is from the scaled agile framework. And often you say scaled agile and everybody goes, oh my gosh, you're waterfall. And there's like a religion about it. That is not what I mean at all. But what's the program increment planning really has done for me throughout every organization is it drives that alignment. You're coming to the organization of here's what the business strategy, here's what we want to do. You're giving it to product and engineering to go plan out the next 3 months or 6 weeks, whatever increment you want to do it in, so that they can actually commit and be accountable for the rest of the org of this is what we all said we were going to do. We did it. Now sales, it's also on you to go sell it because you agreed to go make it happen. So with those kind of continuous planning cycles, whatever interval they need to be for your organization, it's really important to make sure you're getting the entire organization aligned of what are we going to plan? What are the trade-offs we made during that planning cycle because we can't get something done? And then the commitment and the accountability from engineering to actually deliver so that sales can continue to take it forth. But that's the maturity that has often lacked in a lot of startups is they get going and they just start taking in feature requests and kind of that panic from everywhere. But you're really missing the alignment of an accountability and predictability of we can do this. We all know what we're going to do and we're going to go deliver on it.
Okay, great. All right, Laura, listen, you've made it through all the scenarios and encounters that I laid out before you. I really appreciate your insight. You navigated it quite expertly. Thank you so much for your time and being on the show today.
Yes, thank you. It was great to meet you and look forward to spending some time in the future.